The battlefield was quiet. Too quiet. Smoke drifted slowly across the shattered ground, carrying the metallic scent of burned machinery and scorched armor. The sun of Talrex hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the ruins of the valley where two alien armies had clashed only hours earlier. Sergeant Daniel Mercer stepped carefully through the debris. He wasn't supposed to be here. Humanity had declared neutrality in the war between the Varkari Dominion and the Selarian Empire, but neutrality didn't mean humans stayed away from dangerous places. Salvage teams and reconnaissance scouts still roamed battlefields like this one, searching for abandoned technology worth studying. Daniel's job was simple. Find anything useful. Avoid anything alive. The second rule was important. Alien wars tended to leave survivors who didn't appreciate scavengers. His scanner hummed softly in his hand, sweeping the area for energy signatures. Most of what it detected were broken machines and dead power cells. Then the scanner beeped. Daniel froze. A living signal. Weak, but definitely alive. He frowned and followed the signal toward a collapsed ridge of blackened metal. Great, he muttered. Rule number 2 already broken. He climbed carefully over the wreckage. At first, he thought the scanner was malfunctioning, because what he saw lying in the crater didn't look alive. The armored figure was motionless, half buried beneath debris. Silver armor plates were cracked and burned. One shoulder guard had been torn away completely. Dark violet blood stained the ground beneath her. Daniel crouched cautiously. The soldier was alien, taller than a human, with pale metallic skin and long white hair matted with dust. Two curved markings glowed faintly along her temples. He had seen that species before. Selarian, which meant she had been fighting for the Empire. And judging by the damage around her, she had fought hard. Daniel checked her pulse using the universal bioscanner attached to his wrist. The device chirped quietly. Alive. Barely. He exhaled slowly. Well, he said quietly, this just got complicated. The decision. Daniel wasn't a medic. He was a reconnaissance soldier who had spent the last 8 years exploring dangerous places across human space. But even he could see the alien warrior was dying. A deep wound cut across her side where a blade or plasma strike had pierced her armor. Her breathing was shallow, irregular. If he left her here, she would be dead within the hour. He stared down at her for a long moment. Human protocol was clear. Do not interfere with foreign military conflicts, especially not on a battlefield. But Daniel had never been good at ignoring people who needed help. All right, he muttered. Let's see what we can do. He removed a compact field medical kit from his pack. The scanner struggled to analyze her alien biology, but basic trauma treatment was universal. Stop bleeding. Stabilize breathing. Keep the patient alive. Daniel carefully cut away the damaged section of her armor. The wound beneath it looked worse than he expected. Yikes. He cleaned the injury and applied a temporary bioseal patch designed to close damaged tissue. The device adjusted automatically to her biology. After a few seconds, the bleeding slowed. Her breathing steadied slightly. Daniel leaned back and wiped sweat from his forehead. Okay, he said quietly. You're still in this. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the alien's eyes opened. The soldier. Her eyes were a deep, glowing violet. And the first thing they focused on was the human leaning over her. In less than a second, she reacted. Her hand shot toward the weapon lying beside her. Daniel raised both hands quickly. Easy. The alien froze. Her expression shifted from pain to confusion. You are human, she said weakly. Last time I checked. Her hand trembled slightly as she tried to push herself up. Daniel gently stopped her. Don't. That wound will open again. She stared at him. You treated me. Yeah. Why? Daniel shrugged. You were bleeding out. That is not your concern. Seemed like it at the time. She studied him carefully, as if trying to understand something that didn't make sense. Humans are neutral in this conflict. That's true. Yet you interfered. Technically, I applied first aid. Her eyes narrowed slightly. You risk punishment from both sides. Daniel smiled faintly. Wouldn't be the first time. The alien warrior slowly relaxed. Your name, she said. Daniel Mercer. She nodded once. I am Alira. Daniel offered a hand. Nice to meet you, Alira. She looked at his hand for a moment before accepting it. Her grip was surprisingly strong. The journey, the battlefield wasn't safe. Even after a major engagement ended, patrols often returned to recover survivors or eliminate enemies. Daniel knew they couldn't stay. My ship's about 3 kilometers north, he said. I can get you somewhere safe. Alira frowned. You would take an enemy soldier with you? Right now you're just an injured person. That distinction is unusual. Daniel helped her sit up slowly. You able to walk? She tried standing. Her legs nearly collapsed beneath her. Daniel caught her before she hit the ground. Okay, he said. That answers that. Without hesitation, he lifted her arm over his shoulder and helped her walk. They moved slowly across the battlefield. Occasionally distant explosions echoed across the valley. Neither spoke much. After nearly an hour, the small human scout ship came into view. Daniel guided her inside. The hatch sealed behind them with a soft hiss. For the first time since the battle, they were safe. A growing mystery. Over the next 2 days, Daniel treated Alira's injuries as best he could. The ship's medical scanner helped more than his field kit. Her biology was similar enough to human physiology that the system could adapt. As she recovered, they talked, mostly about neutral topics. Star systems, exploration routes, human culture. But one thing bothered Daniel. Every time he asked about her role in the war, she avoided the question. You were pretty far forward in the battle, he said during one conversation. Front lines are dangerous. Yeah. Usually for high-ranking officers. Alira looked out the ship's viewport. The Selarian Empire values leadership by example. That sounds like something a commander would say. She didn't answer. Daniel frowned slightly. Something about her behavior felt off. She carried herself with the confidence of someone used to authority. Even injured and recovering, she spoke with calm control. And the markings on her temples, he had seen similar patterns once before in a Galactic history archive. But he couldn't quite remember where. The arrival. 3 days later, the mystery solved itself. Daniel was repairing the ship's communication array when his sensors screamed with warnings. Multiple warp signatures appeared above the planet. Large ones. Warships. His stomach tightened. Through the viewport, enormous shapes emerged from hyperspace. Selarian battlecruisers. At least 5 of them. That can't be good, he muttered. Inside the cabin, Alira stepped beside him. Her expression remained calm. Your people should leave. Already working on that. But before Daniel could activate the engines, a transmission request appeared on the console. The signal came directly from the lead cruiser. He hesitated, then accepted. A holographic figure appeared. A tall, armored alien officer. The moment the officer saw Alira, he immediately dropped to one knee. My Empress. Daniel blinked. Wait. The officer continued speaking. The Imperial fleet has arrived to secure your safety. Daniel slowly turned toward Alira. Did he just say Empress? She looked slightly uncomfortable. Yes. Daniel stared at her. You're not just a soldier. No. You're not a commander either. She shook her head. I rule the Selarian Empire. Daniel leaned back against the wall. Well, he paused. That explains a lot. The truth. Within hours, The Selarian fleet escorted Daniel's small ship into orbit. He expected interrogation, maybe even imprisonment. Instead, he received a royal welcome. The flagship's grand hall shimmered with polished crystal floors and glowing banners. Alien nobles and military officers lined the chamber. At the center stood Aelira, no longer dressed as a wounded soldier. Now she wore elegant armor and a crown of living silver metal. The transformation was dramatic. Daniel approached slowly. "You could have mentioned this earlier." She smiled slightly. "I wanted to know who you were before titles influenced your behavior. And you treated me the same. That's because you were bleeding." The court whispered among themselves. The Empress turned toward them. "This human saved my life." Silence filled the hall. "In Selarian tradition," she continued, "such a debt cannot be ignored." Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "You don't owe me anything." "I disagree." She stepped down from the throne platform and approached him. "You helped someone you believed was an enemy. Technically still an enemy. Yet you acted with compassion." She looked directly into his eyes. "That is rare among the stars." The choice. Days passed aboard the Imperial flagship. Daniel was treated as an honored guest, but he felt out of place. One evening, he stood alone on the observation deck. Aelira joined him quietly. "You plan to leave?" He nodded. "I'm not exactly royalty material. You underestimate your importance." Daniel shrugged. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," she said softly. "You did what very few would do." He looked out at the stars. "So, what happens now?" Aelira stood beside him. "The war will end soon." "Oh, yes." "Because of politics?" She shook her head. "Because of perspective." Daniel frowned. "I spent days traveling with someone who believed I was simply a wounded soldier. And you showed me the kind of leader the galaxy needs." He blinked. "Me? You value life over victory. That's called common sense." She smiled. "Then perhaps the Empire needs more common sense." The future. Weeks later, the war ended. Peace negotiations began between the Selarian Empire and the Varkari Dominion. Daniel returned to his small ship. He prepared to leave the flagship. At the hangar bay, Aelira waited. "Will you return to human space?" "Probably." "Will you visit again?" Daniel smiled. "If you promise not to hide the whole Empress thing next time." She laughed softly. "I will try." Before he boarded his ship, she spoke once more. "You once said I was just an injured person." "Yeah. That is how you should always see people." Daniel nodded. "Seems like a good rule." As his ship launched into the stars, Aelira watched from the hangar window. The man who had saved her had no idea how much he had changed the Empire. To him, she had only been a wounded soldier. But sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness reshaped entire civilizations.